The gas station parking lot was almost empty. Sienna Clark stood beside the pump, staring at the 8 wrinkled dollars in her hand, her last bit of money. That was supposed to be Maya's breakfast for tomorrow. Then she heard it. A strangled gasp across the lot. A man crumpled near a gleaming motorcycle, clutching his chest, with patches that screamed danger. The Hells Angels logo glared under the harsh lights. From the store's doorway, the gas station clerk shouted, "Hey! Don't get involved! Those guys bring nothing but trouble." Sienna froze. Her heart pounded. She could pretend she didn't see it, just walk home, but she couldn't. She sprinted inside, breathless. "Aspirin and water, please." When she returned, the man was barely conscious. She knelt beside him, pressing the bottle into his hand, and saved his life with her last $8. That night, Sienna thought she'd just saved a stranger's life. But by morning, she'd realized she'd changed her own. The alarm clock screamed at 5 a.m., same as always. Sienna rolled out of bed, her bones aching from yesterday's double shift. The apartment was still and cold, 2 rooms barely holding together, walls stained with time, but it was home. She walked quietly past the couch where Maya, her 6-year-old daughter, slept curled under a blanket that had seen better days. In the kitchen, the fridge hummed weakly. Inside, half a carton of milk, 1 egg, a nearly empty cereal box. Sienna sighed. She poured what was left of the milk into Maya's bowl, shaking the cereal bag until a few more flakes fell out. She didn't pour any for herself. "Morning, Mommy," came a sleepy voice behind her. "Morning, baby," she said softly, kissing Maya's curls. She sat across from her daughter, watching her eat, trying not to think about rent due in 3 days, or the eviction notice that might follow if she couldn't come up with $150. The bills on the fridge mocked her. Overdue electricity, expired insurance, Maya's inhaler refill she couldn't afford. Every problem had a number beside it. Every number was bigger than the money in her wallet. Still she smiled. Her grandmother used to say, "Our kindness costs nothing. Sugar. And sometimes it's all we've got to give." Sienna had held on to that sentence like a lifeline all her life. By 7, she'd walked Maya next door to Mrs. Lane's apartment for babysitting, then started her 2-mile trek to work. Her sneakers were torn at the toe, her jacket barely thick enough for the wind, but she kept her head up at the laundromat. She folded other people's clothes for $11 an hour, her hands moving in rhythm. Jeans, towels, sheets, repeat. No breaks, no complaints. After her shift, she went straight to the diner, wiping down tables, smiling at truckers, keeping herself moving to fight the exhaustion. Her friend Linda slid into the booth across from her during break. "You look like you haven't slept in a week, honey." "I haven't," Sienna said, forcing a grin. "Then take care of yourself," Linda said, squeezing her hand. Sienna nodded, though they both knew she couldn't afford to. By 10 p.m., her shift ended. 23 in tips? Not bad. She counted it carefully, folded it with the few bills she had left. $31 total. She set aside 23 for rent. That left 8. Maya's breakfast money. She pocketed it, adjusted her bag, and began her walk home beneath the streetlights. Her feet hurt. Her mind wandered, and when she cut through the gas station parking lot, the same one. She'd pass again later that night. She couldn't have known what fate was already waiting for her there. By the time the clock hit 11 p.m., Sienna's $8 would buy more than breakfast. It would buy destiny. The night air felt colder than usual. Sienna pulled her jacket tighter as she walked the long stretch home. The streets were empty, her footsteps echoing faintly between dim streetlights. Every block felt longer when you were tired and broke. Halfway through her walk, she spotted the familiar gas station ahead, fluorescent lights flickering like fireflies on their last breath. She decided to cut through the parking lot, maybe use the restroom before the final mile. The place was nearly deserted. A lone motorcycle gleamed under the lights, chrome shining like polished steel. Next to it stood a man, tall, broad, with grey streaks in his beard and tattoos wrapping his arms like armor. His leather vest carried one unmistakable symbol: Hell's Angels. Sienna's pace quickened. She kept her eyes low, minding her business. But then she heard it. A broken gasp, the sound of someone's lungs fighting for air. She turned. The man staggered, hand clutched to his chest. Then he collapsed. "Hey!" Sienna shouted instinctively, looking toward the store. The gas station clerk, a tired man in a stained shirt, stepped to the doorway. "Don't touch him, lady. Those guys are bad news." "Leave him. He's having a heart attack," she yelled. The clerk shrugged. "Then let him. He probably deserves it." Her pulse raced. Every instinct screamed, "Walk away." But her heart said otherwise. Maya was waiting at home. She couldn't risk trouble, but she saw his face, pale, lips turning blue. And she remembered her grandmother lying on that sidewalk years ago while strangers kept walking, not again. Sienna ran into the store. "Aspirin, water." The clerk hesitated. $6.50. She pulled out the last $8 she had. Her fingers shook as she handed it over. Maya's breakfast money, gone. She ran back out, knelt beside the biker. "Hey, can you hear me?" His breathing was ragged. She slipped 2 aspirin into his mouth, poured a little water, and pressed his hand around the bottle. "Chew them," she whispered. "Please, stay with me." Seconds felt like hours. Then a faint inhale. He was breathing again. Sirens blared in the distance. Relief swept through her. The man's hand weakly grabbed hers. "Name?" he rasped. "Sienna," she said. "Remember this? You saved me." As the ambulance pulled in, another motorcycle screeched to a halt. A younger man ran over, clean-shaven, sharp-eyed, same vest. "Hawk! Oh, God!" He turned to Sienna. "You helped him?" She nodded silently. He stared, stunned. "Nobody helps us, ever." She didn't answer. She just watched as they loaded Hawk into the ambulance, unaware that her kindness had just rewritten her fate. Sienna thought it ended that night. A stranger saved, a few dollars lost, but by sunrise, those same men she'd helped would come looking for her. Sienna didn't sleep much that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. The biker's grey face, his chest still, the bottle of water trembling in her hands. The sound of the siren still echoed in her head. By the time the alarm buzzed at 5 a.m., she'd barely drifted off. Maya stirred beside her, soft curls pressed against the pillow. Sienna brushed a strand from her daughter's cheek and whispered, "Sleep a little longer, baby." She padded into the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and sighed. Crackers, half a banana. That was breakfast. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Maya needed it more. When her daughter woke, Sienna smiled through the exhaustion. "Special breakfast today," she said, arranging the crackers and banana halves like a fancy plate. Maya giggled. "You always make things pretty, Mommy." That laugh, it made everything worth it. Just as Sienna sat down, a loud knock rattled the door. She froze. 7 a.m. was too early for visitors. When she opened it, her neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, stood there, arms crossed, face tight with disapproval. "Morning, Mrs. Johnson," Sienna greeted carefully. "Morning," the woman snapped. "Child, word's all over the block. You helped one of those Hell's Angels last night." Sienna's breath caught. "You heard about that?" Mrs. Johnson shook her head. "Those men are dangerous." "You've got a daughter to think about. You can't be bringing that kind of trouble near her." Sienna swallowed hard. He was dying. "I couldn't just—" Mrs. Johnson cut her off. "You're too kind for your own good, girl. That kindness will get you hurt one day." The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Sienna staring at the wood grain, heart pounding. For the first time, she wondered if she had made a mistake. At work that day, her hands moved on autopilot, fold, stack, repeat. But her mind replayed Mrs. Johnson's warning. During her break, she told Linda, her co-worker, what happened. Linda listened quietly, eyes wide. "You used your last $8? Sienna nodded. Linda smiled gently. "Honey, money can come back." "People don't. You did right." Sienna wanted to believe her. She really did. But as she stuffed her hands into her apron pocket, her fingers brushed against something she'd forgotten. A white business card. Plain. No name, just a phone number and a small symbol. A crown with wings. She remembered the younger biker's words before riding off. "Tell them Hawk sent you." Her pulse quickened. She had no idea what that meant, but before the day was over, she would. That afternoon, Sienna decided to call the number on that card. And when she did, the voice on the other end would change everything. During her lunch break at the laundromat, Sienna sat on the back steps, her phone in one hand and the plain white card in the other. The faint outline of that crown with wings symbol seemed to shimmer under the sunlight, almost daring her to call. She stared at the number for a long time. She didn't know these people. They could be dangerous. But a quiet voice in her mind whispered back, "He told you to call." Before she could overthink it, she typed out a message. "Hi, this is Sienna Clark. Cole gave me this number." Her thumb hesitated over the send button. Then tap, sent. Seconds passed. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. Her heart leapt into her throat. She let it go to voicemail. When she finally worked up the courage to listen, a deep, calm voice filled her ear. "Sienna, it's Cole. Hawk's awake. He wants to see you today. Murphy's Diner, 5th Street, 3 p.m. Please come." "It's important." The message ended. Her pulse wouldn't slow down. Murphy's Diner. That was only a few blocks from her evening job. She could go right after her shift. Linda noticed the color drain from her face. "Everything okay, hun?" Sienna handed her the phone. "He wants to meet." "Then you go," Linda said, no hesitation. "What if it's a mistake?" Linda shrugged. "Maybe it is. Or maybe it's something good for once. You won't know unless you show up." By 2:30 p.m., Sienna clocked out early, nerves buzzing like live wires under her skin. Her palms were slick as she boarded the bus toward 5th Street. When the bus turned the corner, she froze. Dozens of motorcycles lined the street outside Murphy's Diner, chrome catching the afternoon sun. Her stomach dropped. She almost stayed seated, but something in her heart whispered, "You've come this far." She stepped off the bus. The rumble of engines quieted. Every biker she passed nodded respectfully. Not mocking, not threatening, just acknowledging. Cole was waiting by the door, the same man from that night, the same calm eyes. He smiled faintly. "Sienna, thank you for coming." Hawk's waiting inside. As he led her through the diner, the crowd of bikers stood, every single one by one, like a silent wave of respect following her through the room. Sienna's chest tightened. Whatever this was, it wasn't what she expected. When Hawk finally looked her in the eye, the words he spoke would shatter every assumption she had about him and about what was coming next. The diner was silent. The low hum of conversations that usually filled the air had disappeared. Even the sound of coffee pouring seemed distant. Sienna followed Cole to the back corner booth, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. There he was, Hawk, the man she'd saved. He looked smaller now, not weak, but human. His grey beard was neatly trimmed, his eyes steady, kind, but tired. When he saw her, he stood slowly, wincing from the effort. "Sienna Clark," he said, voice gravelly yet warm. "Please, sit." She slid into the booth across from him, trying to find her words. "How are you feeling?" "Alive," Hawk said with a faint smile. "Because of you." He reached across the table and rested a rough hand over hers. "Cole told me you spent your last $8 that night." "Your daughter's breakfast money?" Sienna shifted uncomfortably.
It was just aspirin. He shook his head. No, it was kindness.
And that's rarer than gold. Hawk leaned back, eyes clouding, as he pulled a folded photograph from his vest pocket. He slid it toward her. It showed a younger version of him standing beside a woman and a little girl, 7, maybe 8, all smiling at the camera. "That's my daughter," Hawk said quietly.
Lily, Sienna's throat tightened.
"She's beautiful." She was. He paused, voice catching. "Leukemia took her when she was 7. We didn't have money for treatment. I sold my bike, my tools, everything. But we were too late." Sienna blinked back tears.
I'm so sorry, he nodded slowly.
"After she passed, I made her a promise. I told her I'd spend whatever years I had left helping people who showed the same kind of heart she had."
People who give when they've got nothing left to give. He looked her dead in the eye.
"That's you, Sienna." Her lips parted, but no words came. Hawk smiled faintly. "Tomorrow morning, something's going to happen. Don't be scared. Just trust me," she frowned. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer, just reached across the table, shook her hand and stood. "You'll see." Cole placed a hand on Hawk's shoulder as they headed for the door. Before leaving, Hawk turned back one last time. "You reminded me the world still got good in it."
I don't forget people like you. Sienna sat there long after they left,
staring at the photo of a smiling little girl named Lily. She didn't know what to think, or what was about to unfold on her quiet street the next morning. When Sienna woke up the next day, the rumble of hundreds of engines outside her window would make her realize Hawk had kept his promise. The sound hit first, deep,
rolling like thunder moving down the block.
Sienna jolted upright, heart hammering. For a split second she thought it was a storm, but then she heard it again. The unmistakable rumble of engines.
Not one or two, hundreds. She rushed to the window.
Her narrow street, usually quiet at sunrise, was lined with motorcycles. Chrome glinted in the early light. Black leather vests flashed with patches. The noise was deafening. "Oh my God," she whispered. Maya ran into the room, eyes wide.
Mummy, why are there so many bikes?
Sienna didn't have an answer. She threw on a jacket and hurried outside, Maya clinging to her hand. The entire neighborhood was awake now. Curtains pulled back, doors cracked open. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Mrs. Johnson stood on her porch, phone in hand. "Yes, police?"
There's a gang on our street.
Mr. Rodriguez from 3 doors down stormed toward Sienna. "What did you do?"
Why are they here? I don't know, Sienna stammered. I didn't ask them to come.
The crowd was growing. Neighbors murmuring, pointing, angry and afraid. Maya hid behind her mother's leg, trembling. And then, through the roar, a familiar voice rose above it all. "Cole." He stepped forward, hands raised.
Folks, please, we're not here for trouble, Mr. Rodriguez shouted. Then why are you here?
Cole's tone was steady. "Because this woman saved a life 2 nights ago. Now we're here to return the favor." The noise faded into stunned silence. A semi-truck rumbled up behind the bikes and stopped in the middle of the street. The back doors swung open, revealing stacks of boxes. Food, furniture, toys, supplies. Cole continued, voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "We're with Lily's Legacy, a non-profit founded by the man Sienna saved, Hawk. We help families who are struggling, people who've been forgotten." The words hung there. Skepticism rippled through the neighbors until one voice broke it. Mr. Rodriguez blinked. "Lily's Legacy? Wait, you helped my cousin in Detroit, Miguel Rodriguez, the veteran? You paid for his therapy." Cole nodded.
That's right. Gasps spread. Another neighbor spoke up.
"You helped my sister's boy with heart surgery." A woman whispered. "You saved my grandmother's house." The tension cracked like glass.
Fear gave way to realization. Then the crowd parted.
Hawk himself stepped forward, slow but strong, his vest gleaming under the sun. He looked straight at Sienna. "You saw a dying man and didn't ask who he was."
You just helped.
"That's why we're here." But Hawk wasn't done. The envelope he placed in Sienna's trembling hands would leave her neighbors speechless, and her life forever changed. The morning sun shimmered on the sea of chrome and leather. Hawk stood before the crowd, his presence commanding yet calm. Every biker behind him stood silent, a wall of respect. Neighbors watched from porches and sidewalks, frozen between awe and disbelief. Hawk turned to Sienna. "You didn't know me," he said, his voice carrying across the street.
You didn't care about the jacket or the tattoos.
"You saw a man dying, and you spent your last $8 to save his life." Sienna felt her cheeks burn. Everyone was staring now, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Rodriguez, even the clerk from the corner store. Hawk reached into his vest and pulled out a white envelope.
I can't pay back what you gave that night, he said.
"But I can try to make sure you never have to choose between kindness and survival again." He handed her the envelope. Sienna's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a check for $25,000. The air went still. She blinked, convinced she was imagining it.
This can't be real. It's real, Hawk said softly.
"For rent, bills, food, whatever you need." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why me?" Hawk smiled faintly. "Because the world needs people like you."
And because Lily, my little girl, would have wanted this. He nodded to Cole, who stepped forward with a folder and a letter printed on official letterhead.
Sienna read the top line aloud in disbelief. "Lily's Legacy. Community Outreach Coordinator Offer. Salary, $52,000 a year. Full benefits." Her knees nearly gave out.
I don't understand.
"You don't have to," Hawk said. "Just know that you're exactly who we've been looking for. Someone who knows struggle, but never stopped believing in people." Maya tugged at her sleeve.
Mum, is this real?
Sienna laughed through her tears, dropping to her knees to hug her daughter. "I think so, baby."
I think it really is. The neighbors who'd once glared now stood quietly, tears forming in their eyes.
Even Mrs. Johnson stepped forward, hand trembling.
Baby, I'm so sorry for doubting you, she whispered.
"You showed us what kindness really means." The bikers began unloading boxes. Furniture, groceries, clothes, even a repaired car. The entire street watched as generosity replaced fear. Sienna looked up at Hawk, her face streaked with tears. "Why all this?" Hawk's eyes glistened. "Because 20 years ago I lost someone I couldn't save. You saved me.
Now I get to save someone else. By sundown."
Sienna's apartment would be unrecognizable, and her future, for the first time in years, would finally feel possible. By noon, Sienna's street no longer looked like the same place. Engines quieted, laughter replaced tension, and what began as fear turned into something that felt like a celebration. Bikers carried furniture from the trucks. A sturdy dining table, a soft new couch, shelves lined with books and toys. Neighbors who had once watched from behind locked doors now stepped outside to help. Mr. Rodriguez lifted boxes with a smile. Mrs. Johnson directed traffic from the sidewalk,
calling out, "Careful with that dresser."
Inside Sienna's tiny apartment, sunlight poured through the windows as new life took root. The wobbly kitchen table was gone, replaced by polished wood and matching chairs. Maya squealed as she bounced on her brand-new bed. "Mommy, look!
I have pillows!"
Sienna laughed through tears, her hands pressed to her mouth.
"Oh my God, I don't deserve all this." Hawk sat down on the couch, the leather creaking under his weight.
"Sure you do," he said gently. "You gave what you didn't have. That's more than most ever will." He patted the seat beside him.
"Sit, Sienna."
"Let's talk." She joined him, still overwhelmed, her eyes darting around the room that didn't feel like hers anymore. "I meant what I said earlier," Hawk continued. "The offer from Lily's Legacy, it's not charity. It's a job."
"And I need you on the team. What would I even do?"
she asked. Hawk pulled out a folder filled with blueprints and photos. You'd help families like yours. We get hundreds of requests. Single parents, veterans, people trying to survive one bad break away from losing it all.
I need someone who understands what that feels like. Sienna's eyes filled again. That's me? Exactly, Hawk said.
Your first assignment will be right here in this neighborhood. We're opening a community center. Food bank, job training, medical clinic, after-school care. It'll be called Clark House, she blinked. You can't name it after me. I can, he said simply, because people need to see what real courage looks like. You saved my life with your last $8.
You turned compassion into action. And that's what this center will stand for. Hawk reached into a box beside him and pulled out a vest. Not leather,
but soft canvas embroidered with the lily's legacy symbol, the crown with wings. He handed it to her. You're one of us now. Family. Sienna traced the stitching with trembling fingers, the reality of it all sinking in. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was barely surviving. She felt seen. Her first mission would come sooner than she expected. An elderly neighbor in quiet desperation, and Sienna's chance to pay kindness forward. That evening, the neighborhood was still buzzing with wonder. Children played outside again. Bikers shared food with neighbors. Laughter drifted through the air like a sound no one had heard in years. Inside her now transformed apartment, Sienna sat at her new table across from Hawk and Cole. The vest with the crown and wings emblem lay folded neatly beside her. I still can't believe any of this, she said quietly. Cole smiled. Believe it. You earned every bit of it. Hawk leaned forward, his deep voice steady. Ready for your first assignment? Sienna hesitated, then nodded.
I think so. Good, Hawk said, standing slowly.
Let's go for a walk. They stepped out into the golden evening light. The air smelled of motor oil, dust, and something new. Hope. They stopped at a small brick apartment 3 doors down. The curtains were faded, the steps uneven. Sienna knew who lived there. Mrs. Patterson? She asked softly. Hawk nodded. That's the one, Sienna knocked gently.
A frail voice called from inside. Who is it? It's Sienna, ma'am.
Can we talk for a moment? The door creaked open. Mrs. Patterson, grey-haired and weary-eyed, blinked in surprise.
Oh, child, what's all this about?
Sienna smiled gently. I wanted to introduce you to some friends. She stepped aside as Hawk and Cole approached. Hawk tipped his head respectfully.
Ma'am, we're with Lily's Legacy. We help folks who've fallen on hard times.
Sienna told us you might be struggling with medication costs. Mrs. Patterson's face fell. She tried to wave it off.
Oh, it's nothing.
Just my heart pills. They're expensive, that's all. I've been cutting them in half to make them last. Sienna's chest tightened. You shouldn't have to do that. Hawk immediately pulled out his phone and made a quick call. We'll have your prescription filled today, he said, his tone firm but kind. 3 months supply, no charge. Tears filled Mrs. Patterson's eyes. Her voice cracked.
You'd do that for me?
Sienna knelt beside her. We already did.
You're part of this family too. Mrs. Patterson grabbed Sienna's hand and squeezed it tightly.
You're an angel, child.
A real one, Sienna smiled through tears.
Not an angel, just someone who got a second chance. As they left the apartment, Hawk placed a hand on her shoulder. You see now? He said softly. This is what Lily wanted. Not just help, but hope. Sienna nodded, feeling something awaken inside her. Purpose. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she was fighting alone. She was part of something bigger, something beautiful. But Sienna's story was only beginning. Soon, the world would learn her name. And not everyone would understand her kindness. The days that followed felt like a dream. The roar of motorcycles had faded, but the echoes of what happened on Sienna's street still lingered in every conversation, every smile. Neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid her now waved as she passed. Maya rode her new bike up and down the block, laughing freely for the first time in months. But peace doesn't last forever. Not when the world is watching. Someone had recorded everything that morning. The bikes, the speeches, the moment Hawk handed her the check. By the end of the week, the video was online. At first, the comments were kind, faith in humanity restored. This is what real charity looks like. We need more people like Sienna Clark. But as the views climbed, so did the critics. Don't glorify criminals. This is fake. No biker gang does charity. She probably staged it for attention. Sienna read every word. At first, she tried to ignore them. Then she stopped sleeping again. Linda called her one night.
Honey, don't let the noise get to you.
The world loves to build people up just to tear them down. I didn't ask for any of this, Sienna whispered.
I know, Linda said gently.
That's why you deserve it. But then something unexpected happened. Families who had been helped by Lily's legacy began sharing their own stories, videos, photos, letters. A veteran in Ohio posted, "They gave me a roof when I had nothing." A mother in Pennsylvania wrote, "My daughter's alive because of them." An elderly man in Michigan shared, "They saved my home." The narrative changed overnight. Lily's legacy trended for days. Donations poured in. Thousands shared stories of compassion and redemption. Through it all, Sienna stayed quiet. Still working, still visiting families, still doing what she'd always done, helping. One afternoon, Hawk found her sitting on the steps outside the new Clark house, watching children play near the construction site. "You did this," he said. Sienna shook her head.
No, we did this, Hawk smiled.
That's what Lily would have said too. For a moment, they just sat in silence. A woman who had nothing but heart, and a man who had everything but peace. The world had seen their story. But what mattered most wasn't the fame or the praise. It was the lives being quietly rebuilt, one act of kindness at a time. Soon, Clark House would open its doors, and Sienna's work would touch more lives than she could ever imagine. But fate still had one more surprise waiting for her. 6 months passed, then a year. In that time, everything changed, but none of it came easy. The work was long, the hours endless, and the stories heavy. But every life Sienna touched reminded her why she'd said yes to this new path. Clark House opened its doors on a warm spring morning. A ribbon stretched across the front gate, bright blue against the fresh paint. The sign above the door gleamed, "Clark House, a Lily's Legacy Center." Bikers, neighbors, and families filled the street, cheering as Sienna and little Maya cut the ribbon together. Cameras flashed, kids waved, and Hawk stood proudly off to the side, watching like a father seeing his child step into the world. Reporters asked, "How does it feel to have a community center named after you?" Sienna smiled. "It's not about me. It's about what happens when people choose kindness over fear." Inside, the place was alive, shelves stacked with food, a small medical clinic offering free checkups, a job training room filled with laptops.
Laughter replaced despair. Every week, new faces arrived and people who'd almost given up hope.
And every week, Sienna greeted them the same way, with empathy, not judgment. She helped a single father find work.
A young woman escape homelessness.
An elderly man keep his home. Each act was a quiet echo of the night she spent her last $8. And then came the 1-year anniversary. The community center overflowed with people, families who'd been helped, volunteers, bikers, and neighbors who'd once doubted her. Balloons floated from the ceiling. A banner stretched across the wall. 1 year of kindness. Sienna stepped onto the small stage, Maya sitting proudly in the front row. Hawk stood in the back, his vest gleaming. She took a breath.
"A year ago I had $8 and a choice," she began. I could have walked away. But I didn't. I saw someone who needed help. And that one decision changed everything. For both of us, the crowd grew quiet. I learned something this year, she continued. Kindness is never a mistake. Even when it costs you everything, but especially then. Applause filled the room.
Some cried, others smiled through tears. Hawk's eyes glistened. After the event, as people hugged and shared stories, Sienna slipped outside. The night air was calm. Across the street, she saw a young man sitting on the curb, eyes red, car broken down, a phone in his hand. Sienna walked over. "You okay?" He shook his head. "My car died."
I can't afford a tow. I'm supposed to pick up my son. Without a second thought, she opened her wallet and handed him $50.
"Go get your boy." He stared at her, speechless.
You don't even know me, he said. You don't have to, she smiled.
"Just promise me you'll help someone else when you can." The young man nodded, tears spilling. As he drove away, Sienna looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you."
Lily, because kindness, real kindness, never ends.
It passes on one act, one heart at a time. If this story moved you, don't just watch it. Live it. Help someone today, even in a small way. Tell me in the comments, what's one act of kindness you'll do this week? Like, subscribe, and share this story. Because the more we spread kindness, the more the world changes.